everyone. I am Dr. Adeyinka Gbadebo. I am a first-class graduate of zoology from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. I am your biology lecturer. This is my YouTube channel where I will be bringing you topics and subtopics in biology, ecology, zoology, genetics from time to time. Please share this page, like this page, share the page, like the page, and also make sure you hit the notification button and subscribe. Hit the notification button down there and make sure you subscribe. In this video, the topic in biology we'll be taking today is ecosystem and structure. Ecosystem and ecosystem structures. So to start with, I would like to quickly define the concept of ecosystem. I know in my previous video we have touched on the concept of ecosystem under the different levels of organization in organism. However, in this video we'll be going a little details into the concept of ecosystem and ecosystem structure. So what is an ecosystem? An ecosystem is a community of organisms. The community of organisms and their physical environment interacting with each other as an ecological unit. Take note of two important things in this definition. An ecosystem is comprised of two important components: the organism, the living organism, and their physical environment interacting with each other as an ecological unit. So, from this definition, we could say that there are two components that are interacting in an ecosystem. These two components, the organisms, we call the organisms the biotic components. The organisms, we call them the biotic components. Why the physical factors or the physical components, we call those ones the abiotic components. The abiotic components. Now, these two components, they are very important for an ecosystem to exist. And these two components, they interact for an ecosystem to be sustained. And ecosystem can be studied at different levels. In different habitats. You know, broadly speaking, there are two main types of habitats. We have the terrestrial habitat, we have the aquatic habitat. Ecosystem can be studied in a terrestrial habitat. Ecosystem can be studied in an aquatic habitat. Now, coming down again, even in a terrestrial habitat, there are different types of terrestrial habitats. You know, for instance, in the tropics, we have different zones, different types of terrestrial habitat, which could range from the rainforest, the Guinea savanna, the Sudan savanna, the Sahel savanna, and the arid desert. These are different types of terrestrial habitat in the tropics. So ecosystem can be studied in these different terrestrial habitats. Now, similarly, in an aquatic habitat, there are different types of aquatic habitats based on size. You could have a puddle of water, just a little puddle of water, where you have, for instance, mosquito breeds in puddles of water, in water channels, stagnant water channels. Aquatic habitat can be bigger. You could have ponds, fish ponds, different artificially made ponds. Ecosystem can be studied in that artificial body of water. Lake, sea, ocean, you know, these are different categories of aquatic habitat based on size, and ecosystem can be studied in these different units. So ecosystem can be studied at different level, either in a smaller micro environment or in a larger environment. Okay. Now, in an ecosystem, usually in a natural environment, ecosystem usually exist in a stable state. Ecosystems have tendencies to exist in a stable state, in an equilibrium state. You know, there's usually a balance between the biotic and abiotic components. There's usually a balance in the transfer of matter, energy, or nutrients between the biotic and abiotic factor, usually maintaining the ecosystem in a balanced or stable state. This stable state is referred to as homeostasis. This stable state of an ecosystem is referred to as homeostasis. Homeostasis is spelled Homeostasis. Homeostasis is a stable state in an ecosystem where there is a balance between the different components of an ecosystem. However, changes can occur in an ecosystem. Changes can occur in an ecosystem that tend to shift the balance state, that tend to shift the state of equilibrium in an ecosystem. Now, there are two types of changes that can occur in an ecosystem. Two types of changes. One, there could be a small change. A small change can occur in an ecosystem. Two, a large change can occur in an ecosystem. Now, what is a small change? A small change is a change that tends to move the state of equilibrium, state of homeostasis, the homeostatic state of an ecosystem with a minimal effect. A small change usually causes just a slight effect on the balanced state of the ecosystem. And usually, a small change in an ecosystem, for instance, change in weather condition or change in season, usually impose a small changes in an ecosystem. Change in season, for instance, in the tropics, we could have different seasons, the wet season and the dry season. We also have the harmattan season towards the November, December, January period. These different changes in season usually impose small changes in an ecosystem. You know, ecosystem contains communities of organisms. So when the season change, these changes in season as a result of the climatic factor usually alter the components of the ecosystem, like the biotic components and also the abiotic components. So small changes affect the ecosystem in a minimal way, and small changes is usually met with a feedback mechanism that tend to return the ecosystem back to its stable state. So small change usually is met with a feedback mechanism that tend to return the ecosystem, the balanced ecosystem, back to its state of equilibrium. So when a small change occurs, for instance, during the dry season in a grassland, you observe that grasses will become dry. The soil will become, because of the grasses drying up, you almost be seeing the bare ground. Okay, that has led to some changes in the ecosystem. Mind you, this dryness of the grasses will also affect the biological, will also affect the other communities of organisms that depend on the grasses. It could reduce their population. Their population could reduce, you know, and so on. However, when the weather changes again, maybe moving into a wet season, there will be a feedback mechanism that will restore the original homeostatic balance in that ecosystem. So that is a small change. However, large changes too can occur in an ecosystem. Large changes, they are changes that usually they are catastrophic in nature. They usually disrupt the homeostatic state of the ecosystem completely, such that the original homeostatic community of organisms in that environment is usually not reversed. There is usually no reversal of the original homeostatic state of the biotic community in that environment when a large change occurs. Instead, a new set of community is formed after a large change occur. Instead, a completely new community, a completely new ecosystem is arise after a large change occur in an ecosystem. For instance, when there is a sudden volcanic eruption or a sudden earthquake in an environment like the type we normally have in the Western world, like the recent volcanic eruption in China, somewhere in China, the biological community in that environment where such catastrophic occurrence took place will usually be altered drastically, and it will take a longer time for a new set of biological community to develop, and it will not usually return back to the initial equilibrium state. Instead, a new equilibrium will be formed in such an environment. So that is that for small changes and new changes and the concept of homeostasis in an ecosystem. So I would also like to quickly say that changes in an ecosystem are not always or are not necessarily detrimental. Changes are not necessarily detrimental. However, there are changes that are also detrimental. There could be detrimental changes. There are also changes that are not detrimental. And changes in an ecosystem may not be immediately obvious. I've just said three things now. Changes may not be detrimental, like when it is a small change, due to seasonal changes. Such changes are not detrimental. There are also changes that are detrimental. That's true, like large changes, catastrophic changes of a volcanic eruption, earthquake, cyclones, avalanche. Those can cause detrimental changes in an ecosystem. And also, sometimes changes are not usually obvious immediately. They are not usually obvious immediately. For instance, if due to human activities, some chemicals are released from our industries, some hazardous chemicals are released from our industries at very little concentration, maybe into a body of water. Because of the little concentration, the changes in that aquatic environment may not be obvious immediately. However, due to long-term accumulation of these chemicals, these hazardous chemicals, these chemicals will tend to bioaccumulate in the aquatic environment and in the system of the biotic community, and for over a long time, such changes will become obvious. It may start leading to death in the biotic community. It may start leading to some form of disease condition in the biotic community, or malformation may start being observed over a long period of time. So quickly, let's look at the structure of ecosystem. By structure, what do you mean by structure? What are the ways in which ecosystem can be characterized? Like, what are the features you find in an ecosystem? Okay, quickly, ecosystem has two components. If you're talking about ecosystem structure, you talk about ecosystem having two components, which are the biotic components and the abiotic components. Now, the biotic components are made up of two categories, basically, or majorly two categories of organisms: the autotrophic organisms and the heterotrophic organisms. We know that the autotrophic organisms, they are the organisms that uses sunlight to manufacture biological molecules. And then the heterotrophic organisms, they are those that depends on the autotroph for their own energies, for their own energy source. Now, the link between the autotroph and the heterotroph usually form food chain, food web in an ecosystem, and also this link usually leads to movement of energy and nutrients, in an ecosystem. In my subsequent lectures, I will deal in detail food chain, food web, and energy flow in an ecosystem. Also, the abiotic components of an ecosystem, which are the non-living components of the ecosystem, and the basic non-living components of the ecosystems are soil, water, and climate. Soil, water, and climate. They are the basic non-living components or abiotic components of an ecosystem. These components are very important. For instance, soil and water usually contain basic minerals and nutrients. Basic minerals and nutrients, that is organic and inorganic nutrients. And it is these nutrients that circulates, that is needed by the autotroph to build biological molecules. And chemical properties are derived from the chemical properties of water and soil. They are usually derived from three main sources. The chemical properties of water and soil, they are usually derived from three main sources. Either the geological parent materials, one. Number two, they can be derived from bedrock. And then number three, they can be derived from basal sediment, the bottom sediment. The basal sediment, that is what form the chemical components of either soil and water, depending on which one you are talking about. And then the other part of the abiotic component is the climate. The climate is the weather condition of a place at a particular point in time. The weather condition of a place at a particular point in time. And what are the factors that make up the climate? Factors that make up climate include light, temperature, humidity, rain, and snow, among others. These are some factors that makes up the climate. And these factors, they are also very important in determining the biotic community that you find in an environment. That is why the biotic community you find in the tropics is usually different from the biotic community you find in the temperate region. This is usually influenced by climatic condition. Different organisms, you find them in different zones because they are influenced differently by the climatic condition in that ecosystem. So we study ecosystem to understand the connection between the different organisms. We study ecosystem to understand the connection between the different organisms and their abiotic environment. That is why we study ecosystem. We want to know the connection between organisms and their abiotic environment. And this connection is what will bring us to the next topic that we'll be looking at, which is energy flow and biogeochemical cycling. Energy flow and biogeochemical cycling. And this energy flow and biogeochemical cycling is actually very important. Is the important functional connection between biotic and abiotic components.